Welcome to this live video feed. How is everyone? Hoping we are all very, very well. I may wait for a few people to come on. It's been about a week and a half since I have done a live feed, purposely just taking some time off to read, research, immerse, be in silence and stillness, or as much as possible per se. Let me know that you're here. I can't see everyone that is coming on, so potentially pop a number 1 in the comment box. Let me know that you're here. Maybe a smiley face, something to let me know how you're feeling, how you're connecting to yourself this evening or this morning, wherever you may find yourself in the world. And of course, how you are going to connect to this very interesting material. Tracy, hi, how are you? Thank you for letting me know that you were here. So we're speaking to this evening, in my evening where I am, the developmental stages of courting. Okay, so you got Fiona, Catherine, Patrick, Karen, Janine, awesome, Chris, Amanda, thank you, Zoe, how are you, my dear? Yes, Rachel, hello, Annette. Oh, wonderful. Okay, so any people coming on, this is great. So just let me know as you're coming on. Place number 1 in the comment box. Let me know that you're here. Or hello, Renpei. That's awesome. Okay, Yanni, how are you? Welcome. Well, it's about courting, but it's a little bit more than that. It's also about the way we relate. So it is definitely about courting, but I put courting in the subject, in the title, because it will grab our attention. We're rolling, Tracy. We're rolling. We're going to roll, definitely. So the reason why is because it's just an important subject matter, isn't it? It's something that we're all deeply interested in. Catherine, they do. Mary, hello. Catherine, thank you for being here as well. I haven't seen you for some time. I'm hoping you're well. Yes, people still do court. We do still court. It is a beautiful practice. It is a connected practice. It is a respectful practice. It is a practice that allows us to be our authentic selves. It is a practice. Courting is a practice that allows us to show up in that dynamic, in that relational dynamic, in that relationship with integrity and truth. And when we're able to do that, we become very different people. We become people that move through the world with greater clarity and awareness and a sense of self, a sense of well-being and a consciousness around self that is so important. That's another reason why I place courting very purposely in the subject heading, in the title, because it is so important that when we come from a place of meaning, of intention to court, what does that actually mean when two people come from that place? They stem from that truth, that reality. What it means is there's a deep respect for the other. There's a deep autonomy of self. There's a deep respect for self as well. And the only way we can really, truly have respect for self is if and when we deeply understand what is most important to us in life. We deeply understand our values. We deeply understand our purpose. Now, I read something really interesting yesterday on purpose. Okay, now I'm a big believer in purpose. I'm a big believer in gaining clarity with respect to who we are and how we wish to move through the world. I think that is one of the most important states that we can immerse ourselves in, is that state of being on purpose and living in purpose. And this author, and I can't remember his name because it was his wife that was telling the story of how he was asked to say something on purpose, and he totally threw purpose off. He spun purpose around with respect to us not needing purpose, and I loved it. So usually I would say, well, no, we have to have purpose. I absolutely love this. So, and I actually want to read this to you. So give me a moment. This is cool. This is fun. Yeah. So I've sort of paraphrased this as well, just so you know. But irrespective, it's you're going to get the gist of it. And I'm going to explain to you how it fits into conscious relating and how it fits into who we are as people and how we relate to each other and how we relate to ourselves, how we love ourselves, how we share love with ourselves. And actually, before we get started, something really interesting I'd like to ask you is, oh wow, okay, so a lot of people, I haven't even seen this, sorry. So I'm just having to read off some of the comments here. I've missed these. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, so purpose. Before I get going on purpose, Catherine, hello. Sky, hello. Beck, hello. Zoe, hello. Awesome, awesome. So before I get started on purpose, share your thoughts with me, please, on how you feel about purpose. Share your thoughts with me on whether you think having a purpose or purposes or having clarity in life, a direction where how we align our actions and values, especially when we relate to ourselves in terms of how we love ourselves and care for ourselves, and how we relate to others and how we love and care for others, and having a purpose around that, if that is important to you. So let me know what you feel about that and what you think about that. There's some beautiful people on here this evening. I feel so blessed. I feel very, very blessed. Yeah. This is wonderful. So yeah, let me know what you think and feel about purpose. I'm going to read to you this very short paragraph. So forget about your purpose. It does not exist. There is no career, purpose, or work-life balance specially assigned to you by some existential taskmaster. There is no code to crack that will see you leap effortlessly out of bed every morning to assist you in justifying your existence. It is just a myth sold by spiritual conmen and entrepreneurial almost yogis, telling you that your don't know and not sure is a serious problem. Beware of those whose purpose is telling you to find yours. You can never be anything other than you and who you are right now. It is impossible to be anything but you in your authentic self. You are forever perfect. You do not have a choice in the matter. You cannot do anything but your best. What is better anyway? Wake up, there is no purpose. We do not need a justification to be alive and to exist and to be present. Don't worry, you are not in control. Dissolve the illusion of your fixed position by paying attention to your current position. By saying, I don't know, life becomes impossible to fuck up. Now, I like that. I really, really like that. So I'm seeing some interesting comments here. Okay. A lot of hellos, which is good. Hellos are great, yeah? Awesome. So let me know what you feel about that. Now, I'll tell you what I took away from that. I took away from being very present with that. I still believe in purpose. And for me, purpose is clarity. It's clarity and connection to one's values. It's understanding who we are and how we choose to conduct ourselves in life, who we choose to be in life. That's what purpose is for me. Everything we have is within ourselves. Anything that anyone shows us is simply a reflection, externalized, existential reflection of what we already know, what is deep within us. That is the beauty of relationships. That is the beauty of consciously relating. When we are present with where we are, and I want to really set the foundations for this conversation today. When we are present with where we are and who we are, when we know ourselves as best as we can, this is the important part, is knowing self as best we can. When we know ourselves as best we can with great clarity and great wisdom of self, we are able to set healthy boundaries because we are able to love and connect to who we are. When we are able to do this, this is living purposefully. Now, what happens is our actions align with a greater truth that we hold within ourselves. And in that moment, we live presently. We attach meaning and fulfillment to our lives. And this essentially sets us up for happiness. And it's doing so in the present moment. We cannot experience that meaning, that fulfillment, that happiness without being immersed in the present moment and actually being grateful for who we are and owning our value, owning our brilliance, owning our magnificence. Sunil, how are you? Awesome. Karen, welcome. Natalie, welcome. Sky, purpose driven. Us, we all do make mistakes, absolutely, and mistakes, and it's okay to not always get life right 100%, okay? And that's not what living on purpose necessarily is about. Living on purpose is being admirable and honorable enough to know that when we are out of our alignment, we can recognize that, and we're not hard on ourselves, but rather we can observe that and gently bring ourselves back into alignment. Now, what has this got to do with the developmental stages of courting, or rather developmental stages of relating? So these are going to go hand in hand, yeah? I'm going to explain to you why they're going to go hand in hand. Because when David Data says there are 3 stages to to relating, basically, and I call it conscious relating. And the first stage is not too conscious. The first stage is very selfish. So if we're in that first stage, especially as men in this case, but women as well, of course, we are going to be very selfish. We are going to be deeply detached. We are going to be deeply dependent on the other making us happy. Now, if you can resonate with this thus far, let me know. Let me know, give me number 2 in the comment box, and let me know that you can resonate with this type of, this immature first stage development. So when we're courting, or when we're looking for a partner, or when we're looking for wanting to spend intimate time with someone, whether it be sexual and emotional, psychological, emotional, spiritual, a combination of all, or just one or the other, it's going to come from a very selfish place. It involves a partnership or a courting process that is dependent on each other. So in other words, we are simply there to self-satisfy. We're looking for short-term gratification. And the most common question we ask here is, what can I get from my partner? Or what can I get from this situation? What can I get from these set of circumstances? That becomes dangerous in terms of how we begin to relate to each other and how we mature through life. And it becomes deeply painful for others and for ourselves, of course. We lose track with who we truly are and who we truly wish to be. We lose track with our authentic self. And in fact, all we really want is that short-term gratification. That is all we're looking for in that stage 1 development. And this kind of relationship may seem to be almost like the traditional way of how male and female roles are understood in our society, but it's largely based on financial or emotional dependence. So if I can feel good about myself because of that other person, then I will be with them, or I will court them, or I will pursue them, or I will spend time with them. This dependence, it's also called codependence. So we become very codependent on the other. So in terms of financial, it's generally the woman depending on the man for financial reasons, and the man depending on the woman for childcare or emotional reasons or other things. In a traditional model, this is very generalized terms, but we can see this play out throughout our cultural life. But what would happen if no longer each individual could depend on each other? So, for example, one of them die or they divorce. What happens? How do they survive emotionally? How do they survive financially? How can they live through life without the other? This becomes a very immature way of dealing with self. And we when we're in this stage because we do not know ourselves. We are inauthentic with who we are. We don't pursue our own reasons for being here. We lack clarity in life. We have a low level of self-worth. We find it very difficult to adapt in certain situations, and we really struggle through life. So if you know anyone that is at a stage 1 development, give me a number 3 in the comment box, or perhaps you've been in a stage 1 development, and at some stage you would have been, because maybe not in an intimate sexualized relationship, but as children we work through these stages as well. Because we become very codependent, we become dependent on our parents or our primary caregivers. So at some point in our lives, we'll all work through this, but sometimes we don't release that from our childhood. We remain with the essence of what that is, and we bring that into our adult relationships for a variety of reasons. So if you can relate to that, pop a number 3 in the comment box. Yeah, Tracy, I'm feeling what you're saying. And these traditional roles per se are so far removed from how we can consciously relate with each other, from how we can actually be and come from a place of equity and love and deep connection, conscious connection to each other. And that's why traditional roles have to be eradicated. They have to be let go of. Because if they don't, we are going to continue to create and repeat the same shit, the same immature, disconnected type of relating that actually does not serve and fuel our growth and our expansion. And it's deeply, deeply sad when that occurs. So that stage 1 development is very dependent. It's deeply dependent, and it's all about short-term self-gratification, and it's selfish. It is a deeply selfish way of being. And it is a deeply selfish way of connecting, and we lose touch with ourselves continuously as we go through that process of choosing to connect in that way. Now, it gets better though. It becomes a lot more interesting, and the deeper levels of consciousness come from the space of the second stage development, where there is far more equity in the second stage development. And here, individuals are far more self-conscious. They are more aware of themselves. They are deeply connected to who they are. They are connected to their path. They are connected to their own inner wisdom. They are able to set safe boundaries. And there are equitable expectations for both men and women. We begin to transcend traditional gender roles. We begin to connect deeply to others, and we lose, or we rather don't have these rigid expectations of others. In that first stage development, we have a very rigid expectation of what a relationship should look like and how that relationship needs to serve us. Now, again, you can relate to this as children. You probably have experienced this, and that's interesting. But if we take that first stage development into our adult relationships, we're going to constantly come up against friction and tension. And the reason being is because after that honeymoon period wanes, after that neurochemical hit begins to diminish for both men and women in different ways, because men and women are biologically hardwired differently, of course. When that begins to diminish and wane, we are left with no coping strategies, no emotional intelligence, no relational or sexual intelligence, no cognitive intelligence, no physical awareness of self, no real awareness of the other. So what happens is we argue, we create tension, we create friction, and we lose that connection with self, because we cannot navigate our way through the difficulty and the challenge. We cannot observe the value and the merit in the potential disconnection that is occurring, or the arguments or the disagreements, because there is great truth and wisdom and value in that if it's navigated in a mature, expressive, connected, conscious, respectful manner. Now give me number 4 in the comment box if you can really resonate with that. Number 4 in the comment box if you can really resonate with that, yeah? Because that's where we want to be. So let's go back to this second stage development now. And in this stage of development, one of the common questions that we ask ourselves, and both parties would be asking this, is how can we share together? And it's the same in the courting process. So in the courting process of getting to know each other, getting to immerse oneself and each other in each other's energy, in each other's essence, in their values, in their purpose, in their likes and their dislikes, in how they present to the world, we are constantly asking the question of ourselves: how can we share profound, enlightened experiences together? How can we, connect to one another? How can we be open with one another? How can we be transparent? How can we be loving? How can we be completely, deeply connected to each other? These are the questions that we ask. And how can we serve each other? How can we serve each other in great equity and with great love and affection and care? And these are the types of questions that we ask ourselves when we come from this second stage developmental phase of being. We may want to feel safe and independent, and that's okay in this, but it's two people coming together, working out an equitable relationship. And it's these two whole beings coming together to share a life. Obviously, that evolves deeply in the third stage, where we have intimate communion. But here it is two whole beings coming together, two whole beings realizing that they are whole in and of themselves, that they are able to be connected to self. They come to the relationship with a deepened sense of self and well-being, with a confidence, not an arrogance, a confidence. Yeah. So they come with an open vulnerability because they are able to trust themselves. They do not come to the relationship to look for completion in this second stage development. They come to the relationship to enhance themselves and to be of service to the other person. And of course, in a selfish, selfless posture, to be of service to themselves. That becomes deeply empowering. Now, if you can resonate with the beginning stages of that, pop a number 5 in the comment box, because this is where it begins to become deeply interesting now. And we all have this capacity, people. We all have this capacity of presence. We all have this capacity of openness and vulnerability, of truth and love, to come from a place of open heart and transparency. We all have this very, very deep capacity to do so and to embody this fully. And the way we do that is through conscious awareness of self. The way we do that is through choosing to articulate ourselves through a greater source. It's not just limited to us. We are able to see beyond our own capacities. We are able to see beyond our own consciousness and existence. And we begin to connect in a unified way here everything that exists in life. This is a beautiful place to be. And this is a desirable state to be in and an open state to immerse oneself in, yeah? So let me be very clear about that open state of being. It's coming from a place of courage. It's coming from a place of being open to ideas, beliefs. It's coming to a place of receiving. We are able to receive in this place. That's the power there, okay? So this type of relationship may be viewed as a potentially a more modern, conscious, evolved type of relationship where I suppose I don't like using the term equal for a couple of reasons, but the term equal comes up when we speak to the second stage development. So it probably hasn't quite gone to that stage of equity. There's still a lacking in this second stage development. But let me be very clear, it's a deeply mature, conscious stage of development as well. There's definitely a consciousness around being of service, but this stage of development often lacks, not always, but often lacks that sexual energy. And I'm not talking about sexual attraction. I'm talking about sexual energy at a far deeper level. So the polarity needed to ignite the passion, the sexual fire may be missing or will diminish over time. So what this means is that the individuals have not fully connected to themselves. They have not fully connected to their ability to express themselves in a healthy sexual manner as well. They are not connected to their own sexual being, to their own physical being. They are not connected to the being or the physical being of the other either. So whilst there's a great deal of, I suppose, emotional intelligence, intellectual intelligence, or cognitive intelligence rather, rational intelligence we'll call it, logic, and relational intelligence is a sincere compassion, empathy, and care for the other person and for themselves and for other people, of course. In terms of moving deeper into oneself, it changes a bit. There is still fear in the individual. Yes, we come with an intention to be whole in this second stage development, but there is still fear and there's a lack of understanding of self. But of course, we are always growing. Please know there's no wrong or right here. It's not that the second stage is better than the first. It's not about good or bad or better or worse. They are simply differing developmental stages amongst how we choose to relate to each other and to the world, and where we are in our own personal growth journey, and how we come from a place of either inspired action or desperate action. And whichever path we choose determines our own sense of well-being and how we choose to relate to each other. Yeah? And the depth of each individual based on life experience and then based on attention to life experiences, this is something that we don't often do. Right? This is really interesting. This is something that we don't often do in life. We have all these wonderful experiences. You know, our experiences don't differ that much, really. In terms of how we feel about what we experience, the feelings are very similar. There's a great deal of sameness in our human capacity to feel and explore life. But what we lack so often. There's a number of reasons why, because we haven't been taught, because we don't know how, because there's a cultural expectation to prioritize other externalized societal values. We don't go deep within ourselves. We don't sit back, observe, and just feel and think into our behaviors. It's not even an analysis. It's far beyond an analysis. It's an articulation of paying attention, being attentive to one's inner processes, being aware of those inner processes. And we miss that in our lives so much. We aren't able to do that. We aren't able to. The ancient Greeks said that if there's anything that you do in your day, at the end of your day, spend 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, simply reflecting on who you've been that day, what you've experienced, how you've behaved, what you've felt, what interactions have you had, where could you improve or evolve in life. We need to be assertive and discerning in that space in order to begin to connect to ourselves and understand ourselves with greater depth and efficacy. And when we do so, we begin to really transcend that first stage development. I'm going to come back to the first stage development after I finish with the third stage development, because I want to speak to a couple of different points on that, and I'll get to that. So, beautiful people, if you're just coming on, pop a number 1 in the comment box. And if you're new to these live feeds, place new in the comment box so the tribe can welcome you and greet you with open arms. That would be a beautiful thing, yeah? Awesome. I'm just going to have to look at these awesome comments as well. Wonderful. Okay, so let me go back to the second stage. So we're asking ourselves in the second stage how we're relating. You know, what's happening with the passion in our lives, and the passion for each other, but also the passion for our own well-being. Are we excited about spending intimate time with our beloved, or are we simply just functioning? Are we simply turning cogs? Are you okay and comfortable in being deeply, completely in love and living your highest potential and being very deeply intimate with your partner? So these are questions that we begin to really ask ourselves and explore in the second stage, evolution of consciously relating, so to speak. So if the woman feels her feminine self less and the man his masculine self less, then the natural charge between the two people will diminish. That's really important to understand as well. So often what occurs after that passion, that sexual aliveness diminishes, that first stage of love, so to speak, which is separate to these stages here. I've done a video on that, and you'll find it on YouTube. 3 stages of love, I think it's called. Yeah, something around that. The inner longing to be met and be touched deeply no longer occurs, and eventually one or both partners may become deeply dissatisfied within the dynamics of the relationship, and they may look outside the relationship for its fulfillment. Now, this is one explanation on Marie, welcome. Thank you, Marie. Can we all please welcome Marie? That would be wonderful. Lots of new people here tonight, I'm sure. Wonderful. So if you're just new and you're coming on, let us know that you're new, yeah? If you're just coming on now, just pop number 1 in the comment box. Sorry, Marie, I think I read that wrong. Are you new or you just came on? My apologies. Either way, welcome. So that's an explanation with respect to one of the reasons why we drift. Yeah, it's because we haven't fully embodied our own sexuality, our own being in wholeness and fullness. But we do come from a place of wholeness in this stage. So we can recognize if we are out of alignment, so to speak. But our intention is one of wholeness. We don't come into a relationship for looking for completion for another, but rather enhancement and also evolution, how we can add value to that relationship as well. So be very, very clear between that, yeah? Welcome, Ella. Thank you for being here. Hey, Michelle. How are you? Thank you for being here. Oh, welcome. So nice to have you on. Okay, cool. So this is really interesting. There's an evolutionary theory with respect to, because we're speaking to that second stage conscious relating. So if you're just coming on, we're speaking to 3 stages of how we relate to each other in a mature and conscious way, in an evolved way, and how through those stages we begin to evolve not only the dynamic but also how we behave and how we relate to ourselves and each other. So in that second stage, if we're not fully into our sexual wholeness per se, we may look for fulfillment outside of the relationship. And if we don't connect to ourselves, and if we don't know ourselves with great efficacy, with a very deep, sincere yearning, we're unable to observe the value of what it means to disconnect in the relationship, and how that disconnection can actually enhance the other and enhance ourselves in terms of evolve our ideas around self, and also help us to grow past trauma and pain points that we've experienced in the past, either as very young people or as young adults or in previous relationships. Because everything that we experience in life is an opportunity for us to grow. Everything that we experience in life is an opportunity for us to be a greater, more connected version of self. And if we are not able to understand that in this space, we lose ourselves. So if you can resonate with what I'm saying there, beautiful people, pop a number 5 in the comment box, please. Pop a number 5 in the comment box and let me know that you're able to resonate with that. And I'm going to go into a very interesting evolutionary theory. Actually, before I do that, I'll move into stage 3. I'll go into stage 3 development, and then we'll speak to other reasons. One of the core reasons why we drift and disconnect from each other is because we don't know ourselves, is because we have hidden unconscious shadow fears that drive our behavior and how we relate. We have unchecked coping strategies, unchecked emotional coping strategies that do not serve us, that do not serve our being. We're on 6, not 5. I don't know. I'm losing number here. But we have these unconscious, unchecked fears that drive our behavior. And as soon as we are triggered, as soon as we are pushed against our edge and we feel that we are in danger, we feel threatened emotionally and spiritually and psychologically, we will react in a particular way. And I use the term reaction there very clearly and very purposefully, because that's exactly what we do. We react. We do not respond. We do not come from a place of love. We do not come from a place of articulated maturity or articulated spirituality per se, or a soulfulness or a yearning to learn and grow and expand from the situation. But rather, we look at the situation from a place of disconnect and a place of just moving back into self-preservation if our fears are unchecked. So it's so important to check our fears, constantly be observing our fears, Otherwise, the relationship will end very quickly, where it could be something of great value to us, something of great potential, and we could be of great value. We can learn and we can grow and we can add so much to that. But we will never do that if we continue to react, and if we continue to allow our way of relating to be unconscious. So give me number 7 if you can relate to that. Wonderful people, give me number 7 if you can relate to that. So we move now into the 3rd stage of conscious relating or intimate communion. And here is we are able to relax into this unified whole, and we are able to spontaneously provide our deepest gift to the world, not just to our partner, but to the world. We observe in this stage that our partner is there to assist us in giving this gift to the world, and that we are there to assist our partners in giving their gift to the world. And the most common question at this stage is, what is my biggest gift, and how can I give my biggest gift to my intimate partner, but also the world? So you can see here how important it is knowing purpose, or having clarity around who we are, so that then we are able to live presently. So whilst that quote that I read rings so true on so many levels, it also is imperative that we know ourselves. And when we know ourselves, we are able to connect to ourselves and connect to our gift that we can then give. And in giving, we are receiving, and receiving, we are then able to give more and more and more. And that is an extremely beautiful place to be. And if you're just coming on, wonderful people, please let me know that you are here by placing a number 1 in the comment box. And if you're new, place new in the comment box, so that the wonderful tribe and community here can welcome you with open arms, as they do, because they are amazing human beings. So in this 3rd stage of intimate communion, the couple are no longer a needy couple. They've definitely outgrown their dependence, and they've grown the sort of the equality. Because see, there's a great deal of conditions placed in that second stage development, and that's why the term equality. It's because we're all made equitable, but we're not necessarily all made equal, and that's because of where we are in our levels of consciousness. Let me rephrase, not made. We have a capacity to be these magnificent beings, but we are individual soul sparks that all come from the same source. So yes, there is equality there. But what happens is with equality, what generally happens is that it's highly dependent. It comes with conditions. That's the problem with equality. But we're human, and that's fine. Like, we have to set healthy boundaries for ourselves. But at this third stage of development, we have those healthy boundaries, but it's an unspoken healthy boundary. That's how evolved we are, or it's set healthy boundaries that are unspoken because we needn't continue the conversation around that because we are so connected. We are relaxing fully into our healthy boundaries, and we have opened our hearts completely in this space. What we must do now is give our fullest gift to the world, to ourselves, to our intimate partner, or to the world through our intimate partner in fullness. So in practice of intimate communion or intimate conscious relating, we learn that love is not something that you do, not something that you fall into or out of. Love is something that you practice, that you embody. This is what allows you to create healthy, long-lasting, sustainable relationships, especially through challenge. And if you can relate to that, give me a number 8 in the comment box. Give me number 8 in the comment box if you can deeply, deeply relate to that. Because that's very, very powerful, yeah? Like, deeply, deeply powerful. Carlene, welcome. So at this stage here, we really are connecting to the fullness of who we are. And in this type of relationship, we learn to practice love even when we feel hurt. Now, just imagine that for a moment. How, if we feel hurt, rejected, if we're resistant, if we feel betrayed, if we feel unfulfilled, we first practice love, and then our native sexual, sensual essence blossoms naturally. And it blossoms inevitably because we are learning to give from our core, which includes the root of our sexuality. So we become very much embedded in our human form, but we express that. We express our deep spirituality for ourselves and for each other through our physicality. So here, this type of sexual union, this sensual union, this conscious union is very different to the previous stages because there's almost an unconditionality that is attached to this. But remember, people, who we choose to be with is so deeply conscious and wise and aware. So we needn't worry about choosing the wrong person. That doesn't exist. There is complete alignment, and we are able to view the magic that occurs in every moment, the value that occurs, the magnificence that occurs in every moment, yeah? That's super, super powerful. That's what liberates us. That's what liberates us completely. So this third stage of intimate development is really deep. Like, it's so deep for how we choose to relate to ourselves and how we choose to relate to others. And not just our intimate partners, let me be very clear about that, how we choose to relate to the world. So if we go back to a moment with respect to the first stage and the second stage, where when we are disconnected from each other and we are disconnected from our partners, that what we generally do is we'll engage in very immature, erratic, disconnected coping strategies, emotional and psycho-emotional coping strategies, which really, they disconnect us from our partners and they disconnect us from ourselves, and they cause pain and hurt. And what I'm referring to here is we begin to look outside of the relationship before we address issues within the relationship. And it's such a sad, disconnected place to be. And I've been in that situation before. I've been that person before. And it is so isolating, but it is so hurtful for so many people that are involved. And it is so detached from what actually needs to happen. And what needs to happen is we need to go within ourselves and connect to who we are, is understand ourselves with great depth and begin to balance these potential evolutionary or biological underpinnings with these cultural influences, and also these, as we transcend through these next level, through the next level of conscious relating, the dissonance that occasionally occurs there. But we must be deeply aware of what this actually means for us. So many people lose. Look, in the grand scheme of things, there's complete neutrality and growth and expansion in every experience. From a human perspective, there's complete loss when we disconnect from ourselves and we make choices that come from fear, that stem deeply from fear. And if you can relate to that, if you have been perhaps someone who has made choices from fear, who has known that those choices are not going to be conducive to the health of you or your relationship, or you've experienced that directly yourself where other people in relationship have made choices from fear that have hurt you deeply, pop a number 9 in the comment box, and maybe you'd even, in a short way, as you'd share some of those experiences and what you've gained from those experiences, what you've learned, how you've grown, how you can now, your wisdom can now be of service to others, how you can add value to the lives of others, and what that looks like for you, and what it looks like for the people that are in your life as well, and how you can be of service to them. Because it is a sad place. There's not many other words that need to describe it. It's sad. It's really sad. And what happens is, if we choose not to make changes or transmutations around our behavior on this, what happens is that we continue to repeat the same choices that we've always made. And if we always do what we've always done, we will always get what we have always got. And in this case, it's more pain and suffering, fear and disconnection, immature interaction, tension, friction. There's no assertiveness, there's no discernment, there's no coming from heart, there's no open, beautiful, loving communication, but rather there is simply pain and disharmony. Navigating relationships is not easy. The more aware we are of ourselves, the more aware we are of some basic fundamental stages that we move through, conscious, mature stages that we move through as individuals and as people, the more we're able to heal our own pain and come from a greater place of love and connection and union. And in that space, we're able to be an inspiration for others, and an inspiration for our own path as well. And that's a beautiful place to be, because we begin to love ourselves more. We begin to connect to the fullness of our own hearts with so much more love and essence. And I love that. And I believe that we all have that capacity. I believe that we deeply, deeply carry that capacity within us in so many different ways. And I think that that's just the most amazing place to be. And when we develop ourselves through this third stage of consciousness and intimate relating and conscious relating, we develop a deep confidence in the self, and it's a non-egoic self. It's a non-egoic confidence, sorry. And it's a connected, beautiful place to be. And during that first stage development, what we wish to do is, as we begin to transcend, is we want to relate to ourselves in every way possible. We want to be able to explore. See, there are so many reasons why we disconnect in relationship. And we mentioned one earlier where we become fearful of losing ourselves in relationship, or losing our identity in relationship, because we lack that self-awareness, we lack that connection to self, that beauty and that wonder to who we are. We lose that sexual attraction with our partner. We don't understand how that, when it wanes, we cannot move to the next stage of love. We don't know how to navigate that. That's another reason why we lose ourselves in that process. We lose ourselves in that process because we have not fully explored our own sexual desires with great efficacy and great strength and clarity in our own lives. We have not explored those because of fear, because of judgment, because of ridicule, because of embarrassment, because of stigma, dogma, whatever it may be. We haven't been able to explore that ourselves. We also don't understand how our biology affects certain impulses that we have, and we cannot navigate our way through that for both men and women in the way we relate to ourselves and to each other. We don't understand how culture influences us, how our belief systems and our self-imposed doctrines influence us as well in terms of our doctrines of life and how we choose to navigate the world. This becomes dangerous because we move in relationship not knowing self. We move in relationship not knowing what we actually want and being confused, not having certainty. Now, not having certainty in relationship is not safe for our partners. I mean, let me know if you feel like sharing, if anyone feels like sharing. When you don't feel safe in relationship, how do you behave? How do you respond? How do you act? What place do you come from when you don't feel safe? When I don't feel safe in a relationship, whether it be emotional, psychological safety, sexual safety, the ability to express oneself fully, when I don't feel safe, when I don't have trust in myself or my partner, I come from fear, and I'll revert back to old behavioral mechanisms, generally speaking, old behavioral patterning, which involves rejecting, pushing away, becoming tensile or aggressive, becoming confused, disorientated, becoming apprehensive, becoming fearful in the past. I've been very blessed to have done a great deal of work on myself, and the journey is never ending, of course. And myself and my mentor have spent so much time in just connecting to self and learning to deal with life in a very particular way as it arises, rather than reverting to old aberrant ways of being that don't serve me and don't serve those around me in any capacity. And I also do that as well. I distance myself, I isolate, I'm an introvert. Once you begin to recognize all of this, you have a capacity to take action. And that's the power here. We all, and that's the equality, yeah? We all have power. We all have that ability. The vast majority of us do, of course. So with that in mind and that in heart, who can you be and what can you do to really evolve yourself beyond that first stage, beyond that second stage, beyond the third stage, to be vulnerable with yourself, to be open with yourself? I want to say thank you so much for being here. I'm going to wrap that up. And I wish you many blessings on your journey of love and self-love and giving love and receiving love and feeling love and experiencing and experimenting with love, and the way you choose to consciously relate with others. Now, I want to share something with you before I go. For any of you that are interested, you'll be able to see this on my Facebook page, on my page there. It's open there. Myself and two good friends, Mark Reed and Sam Reed, who bring tremendous skill sets and life experience. We were running a retreat in Perth, Western Australia, south of Perth actually, in the beautiful Margaret River region by the ocean. It's about 3 hours away from Perth. Beautiful, stunning place where we are going to be teaching a lot of this, consciously relating. There's going to be healing, there's going to be body work done, there's going to be exploration of self, there's going to be tools and practices provided in terms of how we can remove ourselves from the distractions of life and just connect to the essence of who we are, and how to do that on a regular basis and cultivate that strength, how to consciously relate to people as well. And if you're interested, you can contact me directly. I'll be very happy to be of service in that space. But again, beyond that, I want to wish you a journey of fulfillment and meaning with respect to how you choose to relate to yourself and how you choose to relate to your loved ones. And know that you are empowered to make the decisions you need to and to embody the fullness of who you wish to be in life. And when you do that, and when you take ownership of that, it is so powerful. Thank you for all your beautiful messages. Thank you for your input, your insight, your wisdom. It is so deeply appreciated. Please know how much contribution you are making to this community of people and beyond, of course. When we engage in this subject matter, when we engage fully, when we involve all of our faculties in this type of relating, we are growing and we are expanding ourselves tremendously. And we are being of service to our own journey and our own path and, of course, the path of others. And there is a trickle effect, there is a domino effect that takes place. Please believe that, yeah? So wishing you many blessings. If you believe in this message, if you've resonated with this message, if you've found value in this live feed, please feel free to share. Share with all your friends, share with your family, share with those that you feel would be interested in this. Thank you so much for being here once again. I cannot thank you enough. I'm deeply humbled and grateful and blessed. And I shall see you again very soon. I'll see you on Thursday evening, 8 p.m., 8 plus GMT, so it's Western Standard Time in Australia, Hong Kong time for those of you internationals. And many blessings on your day, evening, morning. And as always, I'm glad to be of service. Thank you so much.